Have you ever felt so exhausted, so completely drained, that you'd give anything just to escape? To disappear into a place where no one knows your name, where the weight of your past doesn't follow you. That's exactly where our story begins. Picture this, a storm raging outside, a lone figure stepping into a dimly lit inn, and a pair of hauntingly beautiful eyes meeting his from across the room. But here's the thing. This isn't just a chance encounter. This isn't just a love story. Because hidden beneath the warmth of this small-town refuge lies a secret, one that will unravel everything he thought he knew. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll get the answers you've been searching for. The kind of answers that make you question, what would I have done in his place? Let's be real for a second. How many times have you scrolled through YouTube, looking for something more than just entertainment? You want a story that grips you, that makes you feel something deep in your chest. Maybe you've been that tired businessman, burned out, running from something, or just desperate for a fresh start. Or maybe you've been the girl behind the counter, watching a stranger walk in and knowing, in that split second, that your life is about to change. That's the power of a great story. It mirrors our own fears, desires, and hidden longings. And trust me, this one? It's going to stay with you long after this video ends. The inn is the kind of place time forgot. Creaking floorboards, the scent of old wood and brewing coffee, a fire crackling in the hearth. It should feel like safety. Like home. But there's something off. A tension in the air, a hesitation in the way the innkeeper's daughter, Clara, avoids certain questions. Our businessman, Daniel, doesn't notice it at first. He's too caught up in the way her laughter fills the room, the way her fingers linger just a second too long when she hands him his key. But you notice. Because you're smarter than that. You sense the unspoken rule in this town. Some doors are better left unopened. Here's what you need to know. Daniel came to this town by accident. A wrong turn, a broken GPS, fate playing its hand. But Clara? She's been waiting. Not for him necessarily. But for something. Or someone. And that's the real mystery, isn't it? Why does she look at him like she's seeing a ghost? Why do the other patrons fall silent when he walks into the room? You're itching to know. I can feel it. And I promise you, the truth is coming. But first, you need to understand the stakes. Because this isn't just a romance. It's a puzzle. And every piece I give you will lead you closer to the shocking finale. Daniel is the classic runaway. Sharp suit, tired eyes, a briefcase full of regrets. He thinks he's just passing through. He's wrong. Clara is all soft smiles and hidden storms. She knows things about this town, about him, that she shouldn't. And then there's the inn itself, almost a character in its own right. Whispers in the hallway, a locked attic door, the way the portrait above the fireplace seems to watch you no matter where you stand. I won't tell you what it all means yet. But I will say this. Nothing here is an accident. Every glance, every seemingly casual remark, is a breadcrumb. And you? You're following them straight into the heart of the mystery. By now, you're hooked. You need to know, what's in the attic? Why does Clara stiffen every time Daniel asks about the previous guest in room 3? And most importantly, what happens at midnight, when the inn's front door locks itself from the inside? The answers are coming. But here's the catch. They're in the next part of this story. And if you think you've figured it out already, trust me, you haven't. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and brace yourself. Because once you step inside this inn, there's no going back. Daniel had no idea why his GPS led him to this forgotten stretch of road, but as the rain hammered against his windshield and the last bar of his phone signal disappeared, he knew he had no choice but to stop for the night. The inn stood like a relic from another time, its wooden sign, *The Hollows Rest*, swaying ominously in the wind. He told himself it was just exhaustion playing tricks on his mind, but the moment he stepped inside, the air thickened with something he couldn't name. It wasn't just the scent of aged wood and burning embers. It was the way the few patrons at the bar turned to stare, their conversations dying mid-sentence. And then there was Clara, the innkeeper's daughter, who moved with the quiet grace of someone who knew far more than she let on. Her smile was warm, but her eyes held a question, as if she had been expecting him long before his car ever pulled into the gravel drive. The town itself was a puzzle, the kind of place that didn't appear on most maps. Daniel had meant to drive straight through, to put as much distance as possible between himself and the mess he'd left behind in the city, but something about this place tugged at him. Maybe it was the way Clara's fingers brushed his when she handed him his room key, or the way the old man in the corner muttered about another one who won't leave under his breath. By morning, he told himself, he'd be back on the road. But morning came with a thick fog that clung to the streets like a warning, and when he went to settle his bill, Clara was gone, replaced by a stern-faced woman who claimed to be her mother but spoke of her daughter in the past tense. "Clara's not here," she said, her voice final, as if that explained everything. Yet Daniel could have sworn he saw her silhouette in the upstairs window, watching him as he stepped outside. Then there were the whispers. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones about the inn's history, about guests who checked in but never left, about a fire decades ago that should have burned the place to the ground. Yet here it stood, untouched by time. The bartender, a grizzled man with a scar running down his cheek, slid Daniel a drink he didn't order and said, "Best not to ask too many questions, city boy." But Daniel had always been terrible at following advice. That night, he found himself standing in front of the locked attic door, the one Clara had warned him about, with a nervous laugh. "Nothing up there but old furniture," she'd said, but the way her voice trembled told a different story. The keyhole was rusted shut, yet when he pressed his ear to the wood, he could have sworn he heard breathing on the other side. And then there was the book. Left on his bedside table when he returned to his room, its pages filled with handwritten entries, names, dates, and a single recurring phrase. "They always come back." The last entry was his own name, scrawled in fresh ink, dated tonight. His blood ran cold. Was this some kind of joke? A twisted welcome from the locals? Or was there something far darker at play? He thought about leaving right then, throwing his things into his car and speeding away before the fog could swallow him whole. But as he reached for his keys, a faint melody drifted through the walls, a music box, slow and haunting, coming from somewhere deep within the inn. And then a voice. Clara's voice. Singing. Except, Clara wasn't here. At least, that's what her mother had said. The town's secrets were peeling back layer by layer, and with each revelation, Daniel felt himself being pulled deeper into something he didn't understand. Why did the diner owner refuse to serve him after recognizing his face? Why did the old photographs in the lobby seem to shift when he looked away? And why, every night at exactly 3:17 a.m., did the inn's front door unlock itself with a click, as if inviting something, or someone, inside? He needed answers, but the more he searched, the more the lines blurred between reality and nightmare. One thing was certain. He wasn't just passing through anymore. The inn had chosen him. And whatever waited in the shadows, it wasn't going to let him leave without a price. The music box's eerie melody still echoed in Daniel's mind the next morning, clinging to his thoughts like the remnants of a half-remembered dream. He told himself he must have imagined Clara's voice, that the stress of the road and the unsettling atmosphere of the inn were playing tricks on him. But then he found the locket. It was tucked beneath his pillow, cold and tarnished, its delicate silver chain coiled like a serpent waiting to strike. When he pried it open, his breath caught. Inside was a faded photograph of Clara, her smile frozen in time, but the edges were singed, as if rescued from a fire. The date scratched on the back sent a chill down his spine. October 31st, 1987. 36 years ago. Impossible. He'd seen her just yesterday, warm and alive, her laughter ringing through the halls. Unless the Clara he'd met wasn't the Clara who belonged to this locket. The town's secrets thickened like the fog outside. At the diner, where the coffee tasted of ash and the pie was always just a little too sweet, the waitress avoided his gaze until he slid the locket across the counter. Her face paled. "You shouldn't have that," she whispered, her eyes darting to the door as if expecting someone, or something, to burst through. Before Daniel could press her, she vanished into the kitchen, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke and a single warning. Leave before sundown. They don't like it when outsiders dig. But digging was all Daniel could do now. The attic door, once rusted shut, now stood slightly ajar when he returned to the inn, a thin strip of darkness beckoning him forward. The stairs groaned under his weight, the air thick with the scent of old paper and something metallic, blood? His flashlight flickered as he stepped into the room, revealing walls covered in newspaper clippings, all detailing the same tragedy. A fire at the Hollow's Rest on Halloween night, 1987. The blaze had claimed 7 lives, including a young woman named Clara Holloway, the innkeeper's daughter. Downstairs, the grandfather clock struck 3, its chimes unnaturally slow, as if time itself were stretching thin. Daniel's hands trembled as he traced the dates in the clippings, Every 7 years without fail, someone new checked into the inn on the anniversary of the fire. And none of them ever checked out. The book he'd found in his room wasn't just a ledger. It was a record of sacrifices. His name wasn't the first. It wouldn't be the last. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Clara wasn't a ghost. She was something far worse. A guardian of the inn, bound to lure the lost and the lonely into its grasp. The townspeople knew. They'd always known. That's why they watched him with pity in their eyes, why the bartender had warned him not to ask questions. But the most horrifying twist came when Daniel flipped to the last page of the book. There, in fresh ink, was another name, one he recognized. His ex-wife, Sarah. She disappeared on a road trip 2 years ago, her car found abandoned near a town that didn't exist on any map. The dates aligned. She'd been here. She'd been taken. And now the inn wanted him. The music box started up again, its tune warped and slow, and this time, Daniel didn't imagine the voice that joined it. "You were always so curious, Daniel," Clara murmured from the shadows at the top of the stairs. Asterisk, "That's why we chose you." Asterisk, the door slammed shut behind him, the lock clicking into place. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, but Daniel knew. No storm could compare to what was coming for him tonight. The inn had awakened. And it was hungry. The air in the attic grew thick, pressing against Daniel's lungs like a weight as Clara's voice curled around him. Soft, mournful, and laced with something far older than grief. Asterisk, "You were always so curious, Daniel." Asterisk, the flashlight flickered again, and in that split second of darkness, the clippings on the wall shifted, the headlines rewriting themselves before his eyes. His own face now stared back from the yellowed newspapers. His name printed in bold, black ink. Asterisk, missing businessman last seen at the Hollow's Rest. Asterisk, the date was tomorrow's. A future that hadn't happened yet. Or had it already happened, over and over, in ways he couldn't remember? The music box's melody twisted into a funeral dirge, and the walls seemed to pulse, breathing in time with the rhythm. Daniel stumbled back, his shoulder hitting the door, but it wouldn't budge. Clara stepped forward, her form flickering between the woman he'd laughed with and something else, something charred and hollow-eyed. "The inn doesn't just take," she whispered, reaching for him. Asterisk, "It gives too. A trade. A life for a life." Asterisk, her fingers grazed his wrist, and his skin burned where she touched him, the pain searing through muscle and bone. He wrenched away, and in that moment he understood. Sarah hadn't just been taken. She'd been offered. A sacrifice to keep the fire from ever fading, to keep the town's curse at bay. And now, they wanted him to replace her. The attic door burst open with a force that sent Daniel crashing to the floor below. The inn groaned around him, floorboards splintering as if the very building were alive and furious. He scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. There had to be a way out, a loophole in the curse. The book. The names. The dates. Every 7 years, a new soul to feed the flames. But what if the cycle could be broken? Downstairs, the grandfather clock struck 3:17 a.m., and the front door swung open on its own, the storm howling beyond it like a warning. He could run. He could leave and never look back. But then he saw her, Sarah, her face gaunt and her eyes wide with terror, standing in the doorway of room 3. She was alive. Trapped, but alive. Clara's voice echoed through the halls, mournful now. Asterisk, "You can't save her, Daniel. The inn always wins." Asterisk, but Daniel had spent his life making deals, negotiating terms, finding the weak points in every contract. And curses were just another kind of deal. He lunged for the fireplace, grabbing the iron poker and driving it into the flames until the metal glowed red. The inn shuddered, a sound like a scream tearing through its walls. Asterisk, "You want fire?" Asterisk, he shouted, swinging the poker toward the old wooden beams. Asterisk, "Then burn with me." Asterisk. Silence. The truth was worse than they'd imagined. Ethan's father hadn't just been disgraced, he'd been murdered. And Lena? She was the living proof of his discovery. The reason the editor had spent years erasing every trace of the trial. The reason he'd sent her after Ethan, to discredit him, destroy him, and finally bury the past for good. But he'd underestimated one thing. The bond between the two people who'd unwittingly been tied together by fate. As the editor raised the gun again, Duke erupted from the cage, the latch loosened by Lena's distraction, and tackled him to the ground. In the chaos, Ethan grabbed a fallen fire extinguisher and swung. Once, hard, and just like that, it was over. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The timer on Duke's cage froze with 3 seconds left. And Lena, trembling, reached for Ethan's hand as the weight of it all crashed over them. The lies. The loss. The twisted irony that the story she'd been sent to uncover was her own. But in the wreckage of the truth, something unexpected took root: redemption. Ethan's father's research, once buried, could now save thousands. The editor's arrest would expose the corruption that had haunted both their lives. And as for the two of them? They stood in the wreckage of the lies that brought them together, but for the first time, they saw each other clearly. The final twist? That USB drive Lena found, the one with Ethan's voice, wasn't a threat. It was a message he'd recorded years ago, a fail-safe in case the truth ever came out. Asterisk, if anyone finds out what really happened, we're all dead. Asterisk, not a warning to hide. A plea to fight. As dawn broke over the city, Ethan and Lena walked away from the lab, Duke trotting between them. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were headlines to face, wounds to heal, and a past to reclaim. But for the first time, they weren't alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. So what's the takeaway from this wild ride? That the deepest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. That love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone, flaws and all, even when the truth tries to tear you apart. And most of all, never underestimate a good dog. If this story gripped you, shocked you, or made you feel something, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in their shoes? And don't forget to subscribe, because trust me, the next story? It's even bigger.